English translation, 883rd contact Sunday, the 7th of April 2024, 13:26 hours.
Oh, hello, you are all about to arrive, but greetings and welcome. You, Quetzal, please, you can get chairs in the back so you can all sit.
Thank you. Greetings to you also. We just want to hear what you have to report and advise you on what to do about it. Ptah has already informed us about what is going on, and he will also be there to advise.
Yes, but greetings also.
I will second that. So greetings also from me.
Also from me, of course.
I also want, and here are the chairs, plus I want another.
The three of us, Florena and Jana and I, can sit here next to each other if we put the cushion away. Quetzal, so you do not have to get another seat.
Good. So you can leave that. But in a moment I want to start with why I called you, Ptah, yesterday, and tell you what has come up. Unfortunately, it has happened that someone, namely, this is exactly what also happens with religions that degenerate into cults, which degenerate even worse than the cults themselves. In this case that has now arisen, events and explanations as well as facts are being picked out of our contact reports and reproduced in a completely false and distorted way. Just as horror stories and lies, frauds, and apparently a new sect to which believers already belong are also being conjured up. Bernadette's attention was drawn to this, and consequently also mine, after I called you, Ptah, and explained the matter to you, which of course we cannot allow to continue, because it must never be and become possible for a sect of any form to emerge from the Figu and the teaching of truth, teaching of creation energy, teaching of life. This is to be prevented in such a way that misinterpretations are basically stifled before they can spread and enter the brains of earthlings who are not capable of independent thought, but who lowly, intelligent, and simple-mindedly take every lie, deception, and fantasy at face value, and thus fall prey to a belief in this regard. And this is exactly what has apparently already been done on a small scale by an irresponsible person who is building up a sect and has consequently already seduced and enticed followers and acquaintances into believing in a sect with fantasized lies and deception. The whole thing was brought to our attention because the following question was put to Bernadette, and it became clear that an insane person was misusing our contact reports and explanations and clarifications as well as statements, etc., in order to spread imaginary lies and deceptions and apparently use them to set up a cult. Our attention started with the following question and the resulting answers.
Question: we have a question regarding Anatole and Petra Meriam, who lost their lives in a car accident in the early 1980s, who were supposed to help Billy spread the teachings. Do you have any knowledge whether the creation energy forms of Anatole and Petra Meriam have already incarnated again on Earth and can now support the mission?
Answer: no, unfortunately, we do not know. And even if Billy did know, he would not be allowed to talk about it. Apart from that, the Arahat Athasata level would have to be involved for any clarifications of this kind, as life forms below this level cannot make such clarifications. However, such a request is anything but simple, as it would have to be forwarded via various stations, because the Pleiyaran are also unable to contact Arahat Athasata directly.
Question A person claims to have been Petra Meriam, and that she will not be picked up by the Pleiyaran in 3,999 by spaceship when they come here to take certain human beings away from Earth. This person argues that by 3,999, he will have already evolved into higher levels of creation energy and therefore cannot be picked up by spaceship. Furthermore, this person claims that at the time of Emmanuel, the predecessor personality of the American Michael Horn was Saul.
This scribe naturally feels cheated, and rightly so. Consequently, the following was Bernadette's response to this inquiry.
Yes, it is understandable that you feel cheated, even more so when someone spouts such nonsense. Basically, You can assume that nobody on our Earth would be able and capable of finding out who or what their predecessor personality was in a previous life, since neither the pure Earth's humanities nor the creation energy forms of the old Plejaran personalities incarnated here are developmentally capable of finding out such connections to their previous personalities. Anyone who makes such claims is simply a liar, a mentally ill person, or a delusional person. Personally, I would distance myself from such persons in any case, even if they belong to the Figu, that any earthling person, and in my opinion it can be assumed that the claimant is one who is quite well versed in the Figu writings but has obviously checked absolutely nothing, has already evolved to a high level of creation energy in the year 3999 that they could incarnate independently to Era, is absolutely impossible and absolutely illusory because the Earthlings still need several 10 million years to reach this level of evolution, and no one is exempt from this. If she were actually ready, as this person claims, she would even be a few million years more evolved than the Plejaran are.
So that is Bernadette's answer. Furthermore, the person who informed us writes that this person, who apparently believes and therefore also tells this horrendous nonsense and unbelievable nonsense, also consumes drugs, so it is probably no wonder that illusions and fantasies occur that are accepted as reality. But this nonsense spread by this lying and deceitful person, because it really is all lies and misleading deception, misleads fellow human beings. In addition to this liar person is also supposed to make his believing followers or acquaintances believe what personalities they are supposed to have been in their previous lives, as well as what their mission is for the present life, and so on. This denies and misleads the fact that every human being truly chooses and shapes his or her very own mission in life, and does not have to fulfill a mission that has been determined and imposed on him or her. It is even absolutely up to him whether or not he wants to fulfill his actual mission in life, and whether or not he fulfills it at all. Namely, to recognize his own responsibility, and to become a truly real human being through constant learning, striving, and implementation by encouraging himself to do so and actually becoming one. The acquaintances of this deceptive person all seem to believe their illusions and fantasies as well as lies and deceptions without contradiction, which apparently happens. I cannot explain it any other way, because this person presents himself to the lowly intelligent and simple-minded among those listening to him as a dominant personality who can enforce his lies and deceptions with criminal persuasive energy. The whole of this person's behavior is obviously not only based on a delusion, which is obviously a given, probably caused by drugs, as has also been reported, but also by a conscious use of criminal energy. In my opinion, this is obviously aimed at raking in money through lies and fraud in order to get rich and not have to work, but also to make himself appear bigger and more special and a miracle man, and to be selfishly idolized, as is typical of sectarians and foreign to them. And the fact that drugs are involved makes everything even worse, because they have an effect on life, especially on the function of certain parts of the brain, etc., which unfortunately our scientists responsible for these facts are apparently still unaware of. But I was already taught about this by Svath in the 1940s, as I was also taught about many other areas of knowledge. But Bernadette has summarized everything that needs to be said about this in a wise and good way as follows. Block quote, with regard to drug use. It should also be said that any kind of drug causes permanent damage to the brain by affecting neuronal processes and causing changes that our neurologists cannot even detect yet. These changes correspond to damage that can range seamlessly from very minimal to highly serious, but in any case are irreversible and permanently affect and impair perception and thinking, which can lead from mild damage to malignant, degenerate delusions, schizophrenia, or other profound disturbances of consciousness or disorders of consciousness.
What should be said about this, that you have already done with your words, consequently nothing further needs to be mentioned. What should be explained further, however, is what you have omitted in your explanation, but which I consider important to explain and which you should still do from your side, because I think it corresponds to your task to mention what still needs to be explained.
That also corresponds to my view, for I consider effectively that you are predestined for it.
That corresponds to what I also think.
Is good, then so be it. But you, Ptah, could also do that.
I could, but I consider the necessary explanation to be your task, since you are the person of teaching provision.
Is good. As you say, then I will just try to explain it in such a way that hopefully it will be really understood.
Besides, what I have said, I think it will be necessary and required that you, because I am less knowledgeable about this, explain some things regarding the course, working, and evolution of the creation life energy form.
If that is so, then I will do so. So then, as the teaching regarding the creation life energy form states, which is very broad, I will try to explain how everything behaves according to my knowledge and the little I know. But one thing must be clear. The whole thing is very extensive, and I do not know the final secrets, so I can only mention some of what I effectively know. It will be necessary for me to repeat and explain everything several times if everything is to be understood correctly. When a human being awakens to life on the 21st day after conception, namely through the drawing in of the creation life energy into the human life form, then this takes place through the becoming of consciousness. This is what is formed by the creation life energy, which also fills the body with life and practically awakens it. This already happens on the 21st day after conception. However, if the human being's consciousness expires again, and with it the entire life of the body, then this does not happen in any wise for predetermined reasons, nor as a result of a predetermined shorter or longer lifetime. Everything really and truly only happens according to the individual circumstances of the person concerned. And when the consciousness expires and the human being dies and is really dead, then the creation life energy form escapes and reunites with the creation life energy form level in order to remain in it in an evolutionary way for such a long time. The time is called endless duration, until it has processed all the knowledge gained from the previous existence, that is to say, life as the consciousness energy of the human being who is thus alive and has thus evolved further. The human being's viability, that is to say, his consciousness and body, ends with death when the life energy of creation migrates again. If the human being is then really dead and this state of being dead is effectively given, that is to say, there is no living and functioning consciousness and no more life energy in the body, then it is absolutely impossible to breathe life energy into it again, because what is really dead can no longer be awakened to new life. This would be completely contrary to the laws of nature, which do not allow any miracles, but are regulated in such a way that a logical consistency governs everything absolutely. Even a fantasized and imaginary God, such as the one imaginatively invented by the insane Christian religion, cannot perform a miracle of resuscitating a dead person. This, just as frozen corpses can never be revived, just as otherwise dead bodies can also not be revived, which could only be alive through creation life energy. When the creation life energy escapes from a body, it immediately integrates itself into it, and indeed absolutely immediately into the creation's own dimension, and thus returns to its creation life energy level, where it remains in a permanent evolutionary state. And because the creation's own dimension holistically overlaps all dimensions of the 7 universes, the respective and practically separate creation life energy forms can animate life forms in each of the 7 universes of creation. Consequently, it is possible to animate a life form in each of the 7 universes of creation, because the creation life energy is not bound to only one planet, such as the Earth, because 7 universes of creation are available to the creation life energy forms, which means that they can animate life forms in each of the 7 cosmos material belts throughout creation. Of course, this is done according to their genus and species, because each creation life energy form is attuned to a specific life form, that is to say, to human beings, animals, and other countless life forms. It is therefore to be understood that when death occurs, the creation life energy is completely drained from the whole body, which is enabled to live and exist with its energy from consciousness. So when this happens, The creation life energy form immediately and thus promptly reorganizes itself into the corresponding and appropriate level of creation in order to remain there in an evolutionary way. And it remains there until it has developed, that is to say, evolved to such an extent that it now animates a new personality and therefore also its body as a further developed creation life energy form as a new consciousness. The level of creation life energy, like other levels of creation energy depending on their type in the overall space of creation, exists in the overall dimension of creation, which contains 7 universes, each with its own differentiated dimension. This means that creation, which consists of 7 infinitely large spaces as seen by human beings, of which only the cosmos, the material belt space, is known to human beings as such. In addition to the 7 spaces, which can be described as the size or vastness of creation, there are 7 different dimensions in the entire cosmos material belt space of creation and thus 7 universes, all of which exist in the same space within each other, but are separated from each other as a result of 7 different dimensions. As a result, we Earthlings exist with the cosmos material belt known to us in the so-called Dern universe, while the Plejaren maintain their existence in the Ankar universe. In addition, there are 5 other universes that are unknown to me, one of which you Plejaren have explored. In addition, our creation is a twin creation, whereby the sister creation is formed in the same way as ours. Consequently, it also has 7 universes with 7 different dimensions, of which I am only aware of the DL universe, in which Asket is resident, as are also the Sonars, who originally emigrated from Era, that is to say from the Plejaren. Now, the creation life energy level, like all the other 1,000-fold types of energy levels, is uniformly given in the actual creation dimension. Therefore, not one of the 7 universes in the creation dimension would have its own energy level in this respect. The purely universal energies, which have their own universal levels, have absolutely nothing to do with all the energy levels, which are only conditioned by the dimension of creation. In these many energy levels, which are all really completely dimensioned by creation, there is also the energy level of creation life energy. However, as already said and explained, this is purely creation dimensional and so all-encompassing that all the 7 universes and their dimensions are really encompassed and enclosed by the all-encompassing creation dimension. Consequently, a creation life form of energy that returns to its corresponding energy level after the dying. That is to say, death of a human being, like any other life form, in order to reappear somewhere after an indefinitely longer or shorter time, that is to say, duration, revitalizing a consciousness in a body. If now the time 3999 is mentioned, since Plejaren still existing on Earth are to be brought back by the Plejaren, this is in the form that this concerns those who actually want to return to the Ankar universe. With regard to this, the following should be said by way of explanation. If the Plejaren one day withdraw or pick up human beings from Earth, then on the one hand there are only a few of them, and on the other hand it is not as easy as it sounds. This is because the human beings now living and working here on Earth, who will one day be brought back to the Ankar universe, are all animated by forms of creation energy that can only exist here on Earth for a long time through the energy work of the Arahat Atharsata level, and cannot animate personalities in one of the 7 other universes with their own dimensions. These few, who develop more or less well according to earthly conditions, are human beings whose life energy of creation works solely through the intervention of the level Arahat Atharsata, is consistently at work here on Earth, because they have been assigned a task that leads up to the earthly year 3999. However, this is only carried out subliminally and therefore not openly and officially, and is shaped in such a way that, through the influence of the teaching and behavior of certain teachers, more and more human beings on Earth will gradually develop and understand how to use their very own peaceful thinking, decision-making and action, their understanding and reason, thereby creating a state of life that is peaceful for humanity as a whole. In the course of time, this should lead to the human being on Earth developing from his millennia-old unpeaceful behavior into a peaceful being, into a true human being, who will one day carry this out into the vastness of space to other worlds. The Pleiaren then pick up the human beings in question, who were predestined to fulfill the said task and to ensure that it was and continues to be carried out, which was and is effectively only made possible by the unique influence of the high Arahat Athersata level. This was once brought about many billions of years ago by the intervention of the Nokodemion, who brought the teaching and regulated everything by returning from the Arahat Athersata level to the material world. It is as impossible for the Pleiaren to influence this and change anything as it is for any earthling. So it would also make no sense to reveal more of my knowledge about it, which I will refrain from doing, because everything would lead absolutely nowhere. It should be said, however, that through the influence of the Arahat Athersata level, the corresponding forms of creation energy will be freed again from having a life-giving effect only on Earth, so that in the year 3999 of the earthly calendar, they will be free again for all dimensions of the 7 universes of creation.
All this is not familiar to me, and I effectively know nothing about it.
It is all just as foreign to me.
Also to me.
Me too.
I have learnt some things from my father in this regard, but nothing in a detailed wise. And I think that the knowledge about it is very far-reaching and requires more than just a short and simple explanation, but precise explanations and a deeper understanding in order to really grasp the whole thing comprehensively.
Yes, because all the wide-ranging contexts are required in order to be able to organize and really understand everything. Well, to say and explain more about that is probably carrying water in the Rhine, and besides, I am not allowed to say any more. Besides, it would not be of importance for the Earthlings to know this comprehensively anyway, which is why it is not intended to spread this doctrinally, but only the importance of all the connections of what can be learnt to become a true human being, for which purpose the comprehensive teaching of truth, teaching of creation energy, teaching of life is given, which contains all the divisions that are effectively necessary in human life, and for its corresponding shaping into a true human being. Even the foreigners should not know this, because Svath explained to me back in the 1940s that I should never say too much, because he had tested and researched these foreigners very carefully and found that all their various groups knew so little and nothing at all about the creation life energy, as all this was also hidden from the Earthlings. But there was a man called Haller or Heller or something like that, and he was about 30 years old, whom I met together with Svath when we met with Wendell Stevens, who was about the same age as the man at the time, somewhere away from a town in Canada. This man, who knew that Svath was not from Earth, was interested and asked Svath how human beings come to life, etc., and I remember that Svath told him a lot about the creation life energy. Wendell was also interested in this, but Svath recommended that we all keep quiet about it. For Heller or Haller, I do not remember what the man's real name was, and for Wendell, Svath revealed a few more things, namely what they would do in the future if Haller or Heller were involved in construction, commerce and politics, and also privately with the foreigners and their flying apparatus, etc., while Wendell would also be officially involved with the foreigners and their UFOs, apart from in the army. Unfortunately, I do not know what happened to the Canadian, because I only saw him once in 1949 or 1950, while Wendell, Askett, and I often met secretly, after which our contacts also became official after many years, namely when the film Contact was made. I can say that openly now, because I do not think I am doing anyone any more harm by retrieving our conversation, writing it down, and then putting it on the internet.
That will probably be the case. But I now have to say that all this requires what you have said about the sectarian behavior and actions of the person in question, who has apparently founded a sect through lies and also falsifications of the truth and has gathered believers around him in this regard. That from now on this will be tackled and what is necessary will be done to prevent this action of the person in question from continuing to be successful.
Of course, that is why I called you. Because I think that our conversation, if I call it up and write it down and it is then put on the internet and distributed, will clarify the matter and let the believers recognize the effective truth who have fallen for the lies and deception of the cult leader. This is actually saying what needs to be said.
I also understand that and think that the incident ending should be settled in that wise, as you say.
I guess that is the way to go.
I agree with that, and I will go now.
That also corresponds to my thoughts. Then let us go again now. So farewell, dear friend.
Take care together. Goodbye.
For my part, I still have something
There is nothing wrong with that.
Then I also want to get back to my duties. Farewell, my friend.
That also concerns me. Goodbye, Edward, my friend.
Also goodbye, friends. See you again soon. And now you, Bermunda.